Welcome to simonNYstories New York Stories. So I'm going to what I'm going to do with the next couple stories is try to finish up the entire pre-punk rock era. You know, we zigzag around, but I'm going to try to finish up the entire pre-punk rock era and then move into the punk rock era and Joey Miserable and Worms in the 80s. So I'm going to try to, a few stories from the 70s. I got a few notes here, and I got some stories about concerts. Concerts were a big thing in the 70s, and they called them concerts. They didn't so much call them venues or whatever the fuck. The venue, I used to read Melody Maker or New Music Express, and they would call something a venue, and that's okay because they're English, but there's just some things that piss me off. Like if you go to a restaurant, you order something, you go, we'll do the triple distilled mare's urine flambe on a salmon eyeball. I don't like will do. It's like, how about, can I have? Another thing is venue, calling any place a venue. It just pisses me off. So concerts were a little different because they were a little wilder. They had the Schaefer concerts in Central Park where the skating rink is now. And they had all the arena rock bands of the day. And you could get in for $3. So I remember, I was like a lumpen, long-haired rocker guy. I was really floundering for any kind of identity of my own. But I saw, back then there was just widespread drug. Now there's widespread marijuana smoking everywhere. But so some things haven't changed. Like the Giuliani area, no, they throw everybody in jail. But back in the 70s too, widespread marijuana smoking and widespread drug dealing, like acid dealers everywhere, people trying to sell Quaaludes or Downers or, dust, a lot of beat artists, a lot of guys selling fake pot like catnip and shit outside the concert. And you'd go in and it would be three really fucking loud arena rock bands. And I used to go too for the equipment. I used to go to check out what guitars the rock stars are playing, what amps. And I'm just going to try to, talk about, I saw this one concert. It was pretty fucking great, actually. It was Foghat. And, when they'd slow ride and all that stuff, and they were always around there. So Foghat played. They were fucking great. Then Bad Company's first toured U.S., and they were fucking great. And then Aerosmith, when they were at their peak, before they became a cheesy adult rock band, when they were still just a loud kind of cock rock, shitty glitter band or whatever. But I liked them too. See, everybody back then, they used to play really loud, louder than me. The amps that I use were considered small amps for clubs. These guys were playing through double stacks, everybody, everything was loud. It wasn't like now, oh, can you turn down, the guitar is too loud, and everything then was just fucking balls out, and so that was at the Schaefer concerts. Another Schaefer concerts one I saw that was fucking great was Return to Forever with Chick Corea and Stanley Clarke and Lenny White and Al Di Meola, and I dug all that stuff. One thing about jazz fusion did two things to make punk rock happen. The first thing is that the Bad Brains were a jazz fusion band before they were a punk rock band. So they brought all that jazz fusion like Larry Coryell and Return to Forever and Mahavishnu and Herbie Hancock influence in punk. But also the jazz fusion guys, they could play so good. Everything they played, they could play so fast, they could play so good, so complicated and everything. I was never going to be that fucking good. Like, no matter how hard I tried, I was never be as good as those guys. So fuck it, play punk rock. You know. So I saw that Mahavishnu Orchestra, Birds of Fire tour at fucking Schaefer concerts. Hot Tuna played there all the time. All the time. And the thing about Hot Tuna is, like, I never liked the Grateful Dead after Pigpen died. They lost their edge. When Pigpen was alive, they still had a little bit of a kind of bar band or like American roots sound to them. But after he passed away, I never was into them anymore after that. And I like Hot Tuna better because they were like loud and raunchy and distorted, and I've never seen a band that used more equipment. I've never seen a band that used more amplifiers, and they were fucking loud. They're like probably one of the loudest bands ever. And they played the Schaefer concerts all the time. They used to play it twice, 3 times a summer. And if the concert would sell out, because New York was like a hot fucking tuna, like, you know, town. So that didn't bother nobody, because if the place was sold out, people just literally would tear down the cyclone fence and just climb the fucking fence, and then you get like 50 people pulling the fence to rip it down, and then everybody would run in. The security guards wouldn't do anything about it. And so I've seen that happen many times in Central Park. Maybe some of you old parkies could chime in on that. And I'm trying to think of other Schaefer concerts I saw. Those are the most memorable ones. I saw Rory Gallagher, and he played through a small amp, like the kind of amps I played through. But first, Rush came on, and they were terrible. They was to this day, they were so fucking loud and so screechy. They came out, and the singer started just screeching. The amps were so loud. I mean, for me to say something's loud, I like Motorhead, so if I say something's too loud, it's probably kind of fucking loudish, you know. I was like, I put my fingers in my ears. And then this jazz rock band, If, came out. And then Rory Gallagher came out with some little small beat-up Fender amp. And the bass player just had some little small like amp, like you'd play in a really small bar with like just a couple of 12-inch speakers in it. And they fucking rocked. All right? He was one hell of a guitar player and singer and songwriter. And it was like, you know, there wasn't a lot of real rock and roll around back then. And we were really, that was, you know, dying for like real rock and roll or real blues. It was really hard to find. And Rory Gallagher fucking laid it down, man. Another band I used to go see all the time was the James Cotton Blues Band. And they played everywhere. I saw them play at the Academy of Music, the Schaefer concerts. I saw them play at the Beacon Theater. They were fucking great. It's like James Cotton, okay? And then Mac Guitar Murphy, all right? And then Charles Calmacy on the bass. And then Kenny Johnson on the drums. And Kenny Johnson was a Chicago guy. He had that high, tight, in the pocket, Chicago double shuffle kind of beat. Charles Calmacy fucking played a fretless bass. I loved his bass. He's still one of my favorite bass players. Mac Guitar Murphy, he was so great because he never played more than he had to. He was so restrained. He was great, but he would just get in, get out, play a quick little lick, get in, get out. Really clean player. And he looked so young. He was 50 back then, and he looked like he was 25. He was in really great shape. You know, I was like, wow, I'm going to look, if I look that good when I'm 50, you know. James Cotton, what can you say? He was just fucking great. And they, you know, here's 4 guys, the real deal bluesmen, and just fucking killing it. And they played all the time. You could go see James Cotton almost any night around New York. Another thing I did is, well, I'm going to do this in the next one. I'm going to do, never mind, I'll throw them all in here. I stole a whole bunch of pills from my dad's doctor's office, and I didn't even know what they were. I think they were like antihistamines and like mood stabilizers and some crap that, you know, you wouldn't get high on it, right? And I went up to the Bronx. There was this place, Gaelic Park. It's like a football, like, I mean, you know, the Europeans say it's a fucking soccer stadium, the football stadium, Gaelic Park, and they had the Good Rats that were a fucking fantastic band. They were like a local Long Island band that never really made it, but they were great. They were the first guys I ever saw that were like play. They could play jazz guitar. They could play anything. Great guitar players. And the Good Rats, and then the James Gang, the fucking James Gang, for fuck's sake, man. Like Funk 49 and all that shit. Holy shit. And then Leslie West, and like my buddy Leslie West that I met at Manny's, right? So of course I wanted to go see him. So I went up there, and it was like these concerts were like $2, $3 to get in to see these fucking loud arena rock bands. I mean, what do you want when you're a teenage kid, you know? And I had so many pills, and I was just going through this crowd going, Quaaludes, 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 and everybody was buying them. I was selling them for $3. I think I made like fucking $300, $400 that night selling fucking dummies, you know, selling fake fucking, they weren't Quaaludes. And the amazing thing is I got all that money. I stayed for all 3 shows, and nobody came up to me and beat the shit out of me. I fucking was like, I sold everybody all these pills, made all this fucking money, and nobody came. I usually if you're gonna do something like that, you go up there and get out, you know. But I just stood there the whole concert. Nobody came up to me and like fucking stomped my ass for fucking ripping them off. I was such a little scumbag then, and then another time, I got in. I had a really bad night, okay? First, I cut my finger wide open trying to cut onions when I was cooking. Then I got into a fight and this guy whipped out a pair of nunchaku, those fucking sticks with the chain in between them, and he hit me right here. Boom. My whole eye popped out of my head about a quarter of an inch. It turned red. Blood is coming out. I had this big fucking, you could still see it here. I fucking busted my eye socket open. My eye was bleeding. And I was like, I kind of had a concussion. I had tickets to see James Cotton Band at the Beacon Theater. And then I had tickets to see Hot Tuna at the Academy of Music on 14th Street, which was like this really sleazy, decrepit, smelly, dilapidated place that always had fucking great shows. I mean, it was probably full of cockroaches. So now my whole fucking face is like busted open and disfigured. I'm bleeding like a fucking pig. I get hit in the face with nunchaku, and I'm bleeding from my hand. I cut my hand. So I'm like, Jesus Christ, I spent all the money on these fucking shows. So I go to the shows. And James Cotton was great. I mean, my head was like, but James Cotton was killing it. And then it was like the Marshall Tucker Band or some other cheesy kind of like, you know, kind of hippie band. Then I went down to the Academy of Music, and Hot Tuna played for 6 hours. It was so fucking loud. I mean, I don't know how he survived. I was like sitting in front of these loud ass amplifiers for 9 hours after literally getting my fucking like. I had a ruptured eyeball, a fucking broken eye socket, a concussion. All the skin here split open. I still got the scars in my face from it. I broke my nose too, one of the many times it's been broken. So, and I sat through all the concerts. I didn't want to waste my money. And then I went home. I went to my mom's house, actually. I went to my mom's house and just collapsed in a pool of blood on the floor. Like, and that was like, you know, didn't go to the doctor, emergency room, nothing, just, you know. So those are some more concerts. Okay. We're talking pre me being a punk rock fan. We'll deal with that separately. Dizzy Gillespie. Oh, God, he's just seen him a bunch of times. Saw him at the Blue Note. Saw him at Jazzmobile. Saw him at Carnegie. Dizzy Gillespie was so fucking great. All right. And he was also really funny, would crack all these jokes. I saw Charles Mingus. So Charles Mingus come out on stage with an upright bass and play alone, a solo, at Carnegie Hall with no amp. Just came out and played a solo. He used to have open rehearsals also, that you could like like for $2 or something you could get in, or a dollar, and he would just be rehearsing his band and yelling at him and shit. Uh, 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 Arnett Cobb, my fucking jazz hero. Arnett Cobb, he was right on the fence between swing, rhythm and blues, rock and roll, and bebop. And because he could play the sophisticated harmonies like bebop, and he could play straight ahead swing saxophone, and he was like the best honking and screaming Texas rock and roll sax player too. And I used to go see him play. I saw Fania All Stars at the Schaefer concerts. I just kind of stumbled into it. It was like Fania All Stars, just everybody's just dancing, all fucking, oh shit. And there's some good memories, you know. And Eddie Palmieri at the Schaefer concerts. And oh my God, who didn't I see? Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. They used to play all the time. They played almost every day in New York. You could go see them on the Jazzmobile, or you could just go. They played all the clubs. I seen them a dozen times at least. Sun Ra played all the time in New York. He used to play. I really became a Sun Ra fan. My favorite free jazz is like early Ornette Coleman, like the first few records, and then Sun Ra. And I used to just go see Sun Ra play all the fucking time. Played Central Park Band Shell, the Schaefer concerts, the Village Vanguard, everything. And Willis Gator, Tail Jackson, another great like R&B saxophone player. It just goes on and on and on. But Ornette Coleman, I saw. My buddy Al McDowell was a bass player for Ornette Coleman, so I went to see them. My buddy Kenny Washington. Sorry, my buddy Kenny Washington was playing drums for Betty Carter. I went to see Betty Carter. I mean, this is the time of stuff. Sonny Stitt. I used to go see him at this little bar on 49th Street, and it was kind of a gangster, kind of hustler bar. And I was just this little dorky kid, so they used to throw me out. I was too young to drink. I'd go in there, and I felt this big hand in the back of my neck, and the guy threw me out. I was so sad. And every time somebody come at the door, and I was listening to Sonny Stitt play. Sonny Stitt was like, real fucking hard charging saxophone player, straight up bebop, man. Finally, I used to go down there all the time because it was right around the corner where I used to look at guitars. And finally, the bouncer would let me in for one song, and then he'd be like, "You got to go." So he'd throw me out, but he'd let me listen to one song. So I usually wait till they're playing a burn or a real fast song. And Sonny Stitt was kind of like John Coltrane before there was John Coltrane. Like, he could just play these impossibly fast tempos. He had just brutal precision. Every note he played just stuck out like a knife. He was like just, fucking badass. And NRBQ. NRBQ was like one of the few bands that played real rock and roll back then. And they were like kind of a bunch of long-haired hippies, but they were a fucking incredible rockabilly band and incredible kind of Beatles kind of pop, British Invasion garage band, and like rockabilly and swing. And they kind of looked like a hippie band, but they played real fucking rock and roll. And I learned so much from their guitar player, Big Al Anderson. They were my fucking heroes back then. So, and I also got to see my guitar teacher, Chuck Wayne, play. And I went to see Tal Farlow play. And Joe Pass play. And, my dad took me to see Andre Segovia twice. I seen Segovia play. I seen Carlos Montoya, the flamenco play. I seen Narciso Yepes play. He played 10-string classical guitar. So, and I used to go to that's like a whole bunch of name dropping, but that's like what New York was back then, man. The fucking culture we had here. We didn't think nothing about it. The fucking culture we had in New York. Forget about it, man. Forget about it. These were the people that touched my heart, and I have to pass it down to you because we don't got nothing like that today over here. All right, cats and kitties. Mwah.